Right now, we just want to hear kind of your 5-minute sales pitch. Why is your initiative going to work? Where's it going to go? What's some previous things that have been done that are similar to what you're doing? Basically, what is the problem you're trying to solve, and how are you going to solve it? You got 5 minutes. So we're going to start off with Hillary Bryant.
All right. So, oops, you ready? No, when you're ready. I don't need 5 minutes, so you don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
Ready. All right, my idea is the Mayor's CEO Surf Challenge. So, I am throwing down the gauntlet to the CEOs of the Silicon Valley to come surf for the mayor of the city of Santa Cruz. A couple hours with the mayor, beautiful sunny Santa Cruz out in the ocean. The thought behind it being not just to better tell our story, but to attract the attention of the Silicon Valley in the conversation that we've been having time and time again in multiple different scenarios, venues, about what's so great about Santa Cruz, why we are different from other communities, and that we're not just a great place to live and recreate and have fun, but we're also a very serious place to do business. So my hope is that this will be a social media campaign. I can see Twitter, Facebook pushing it out to the leaders in the Silicon Valley, and the thought being that even if they don't take me up on the offer to surf, maybe I'll get a little more time in the water, and it will just attract some buzz and general attention around what's happening in the vibrant tech community that exists in Santa Cruz. That's it.
Surfboard.
I think we've got
I got one.
No,
Or I
for
wouldn't
the
go down the
executive.
challenge.
No, for the executives.
Oh, excellent, yes.
All right.
Trying to make that.
So next up, we have Manu Koenig, founder and CEO of Civinomics. So you better walk the walk here.
Hello, everybody. So my idea is to purchase 2 electric buses in order to expand the Santa Cruz trolley network. As many of you know, especially during the summer months, we face a huge influx of tourists and visitors to our beautiful city and beaches. And that leads to an incredible amount of congestion on our roads, which in itself is inconvenient. It also contributes a lot of unnecessary greenhouse gases. So by expanding, actually I had a chance to talk with Don Lane a little bit about this yesterday. So the boardwalk also operates independently some motor coaches that allow people to park at the Ocean Street County building, and then the motor coaches take people to the boardwalk. And so there's talks right now of the city and boardwalk collaborating to combine service so that could be one sort of unified city trolley. And so this initiative would build on top of that and make sure that new combined entity had 2 electric buses to expand the fleet. And the idea behind the electric buses, there's sort of which exact model we would purchase. It's not been determined yet. There's sort of a wide range, some sort of smaller models that look like glorified go-karts, and some that are full, blast. I think they might have been used in the Chinese Olympics or planned to be used, but that are closer to the order of $1 million each. So we'd have to find the sweet spot in there. But by having electric buses, we help show all of the visitors that come to Santa Cruz a sort of more future forward or future leaning stance for the city, and it's a great way to advertise that Santa Cruz is a home to technology and to the future. So questions? Yes. Oh my God.
I think that a lot of the more newer hotels, they're required to pitch in towards the shuttle service, more or less what you're talking about. I would recommend you get with Bonnie Lipscomb about it. I believe that a bunch of their use permits, that was one of the conditions. So there may already be some money available for some smart person like you to put it together.
Fantastic. Thanks. Other questions or ideas?
Real quick, so in terms of electric, I know that what's the current trolley run on natural gas? So,
Yeah, that's right.
so why is electricity? Because I know that we get a lot of our electricity it's sourced from elsewhere. So why is electricity better than compressed natural gas in the current bus?
Well, that's a larger question. I'd say that Again, it goes towards being more future forward. Lots of cities already have compressed natural gas and natural gas buses. You know, from a larger picture, as far as the argument that, you know, why use electric vehicles if they're running off the existing energy grid, you know, we have major transformations ahead of us as the way a society, the way we use energy, and we have to separate the transportation problem from the energy generation problem. And we have to electrify transportation because that's the most direct way to get energy into your vehicle, rather than some chemical intermediary. And then we have to make the energy grid clean. So the more that we just say, all right, we're going to go for electric-based transportation, the more we can be ahead of our game in evolving that side of the equation.
I like the electric buses because the city's putting up an awesome amount of solar in parking lots and all that. It seems like it's a great way to utilize the solar and not put a net drain on the grid.
And
avoid the grid.
And it's a great way to advertise the fact that that is in place, because people can go, oh wow, this is an electric bus, you don't say. And you know, we could include you know, maps at all of the trolley stops of where that power is being generated, and it sort of helps to, again, yeah, sort of market our clean energy activities. Anything else? Cool. Thanks so much.
Do it.
All right, and next up we have Tiffany.
Hi, so this initiative emerged out of the environmental sustainability and economic development workshops this weekend, and that is to develop and promote an integrated ecotourism campaign, making Santa Cruz a key ecotourism destination. Although this initiative really requires much more fleshing out, in general, what we propose for this is that, I mean, obviously Santa Cruz has a lot of natural beauty, and we are doing a lot of green things within the city that could be promoted. Many activities that are based here, like hiking, biking, even things like mushroom foraging, could be incorporated into this ecotourism campaign. So what we suggest, those of us that developed this initiative, is forming a steering committee that mobilizes the tourist center, key businesses, economic development, parks and rec, and the Arts Council, along with other interested nonprofits and private sector groups, to form this steering committee, and that they be tasked with identifying ecotourism destinations to highlight or activities to highlight, to engage with a design group to develop promotional print and online media pieces, and develop mapping that shows alternative transportation routes between destinations. As far as if this initiative could be translated to a crowdfunding platform, what we would initially ask for is about $33,000. $3,000 to convert the existing self-guided coastal eco tour to a mobile web application that's actually going on right now. That would also include improving signage and promotional materials. $20,000 will be dedicated to graphic design work, professional services, and develop these promotional materials. And then $10,000, kind of a key feature of this, and this could be expanded to be larger, would be to implement a bike loan or rental program, kind of a bike share program between key destinations, possibly housed at hotels along primary routes between destinations. We feel that hotels are well positioned to implement such a program. So we're asking for $10,000 for a pilot program for that. Also, this group would be tasked with exploring opportunities to link with the Monterey Bay Scenic Trail Development Group, and there's been interest in the Monterey Bay area to expand kind of the existing eco tour model that we have into Monterey, so opportunities to expand in that area. Any questions?
I just want to note, in Watsonville last week during the Improved Downtown workshop, and someone was pointing out that Watsonville is home to a lot of wetlands. It's a great bird watching area, and I know there's a number of people interested in a project just like this down there, so I'd encourage you to go talk to people in South County.
We'll add Watsonville to the list. Anyone else? All right, yes?
What about the dropping off for the bikes? How are they being returned into the program? If someone borrows one and they go on quite a long trip, or maybe they get injured or something like that, who's going to be collecting these bikes? Are we going to have some sort of shuttle, or how do we move them to the different hotels, or if one needs to do maintenance, how are we going to do that?
Sure, I think the finer details of this bike loaning program would need to be fleshed out, but a couple different models that have been discussed is just purchasing 20 bikes, and maybe at 5 hotels they get 4 bikes each. We provide them with helmets, locks, and racks, and that when someone borrows one, that there's maybe a $200 deposit goes on their credit card if they're staying at that hotel. Another model is to do what is being done in other big cities, and that's the full-on bike program where you can have advertising and blocking racks. That may be a pay model, but you know, there's a range of models that would need to be explored, and we're not to that point. So thank you for bringing that up, though, to allow me to talk about the range of options that are available, and I'm sure there are others. So. Yes.
Yeah, I was in San Francisco this past week a lot. They definitely have a bike sharing program that I had never seen there before. And so I've been to San Francisco a lot of times, so it's cool to see it going in another place. I think that definitely would work here. I'd love to see it here.
Thank you. All right, thanks.
Next up, we have Melissa.
Hey everyone, I'm Melissa. I'm a UCSC student working with the IDEAS program, which is the Impact Designs, Engineering, and Sustainability through Student Service program. And I'm working on an internship, and our mentor is Tiffany, so we're sort of working with the city on this. And our project proposal is there's a few different aspects to it. One of them would be installing some bike counters in the city in order to accurately measure how many people are riding at certain key intersections. So that might include up near the campus, so like at Bay and High, the Arana Gulch new trail there, and maybe some other location as well. And so that would give us a sense of like how many people are riding at those particular intersections. Another aspect of this project would be to compile data from different web applications or phone applications that people can put on their GPS, and it starts to track them as they're biking. So Strava and CycleTracks are 2 of those applications, and we're working to try and get data from them. And we would be working with the Center for Integrated Spatial Research on campus in order to create maps from that could be viewed, shown to the public, and also used to provide evidence of where people are riding so that we can have more infrastructure improvements. So those 2 aspects, those 2 data points would be able to allow applications for funding for more projects to have evidence and also just show the community where people are riding. And then a third component would be doing some community engagement with that and allowing people to fill in a survey, maybe a Civinomicon survey at different public outreach events, so like Earth Day and things on campus that are happening and other things, so that the community can engage in person and provide feedback on that. So it's a project that we applied funding for through the Carbon Fund on campus, but it's something that we are hoping to get a lot of community feedback on and engage the community with this project. So.
Yeah, so I'm curious, how much money did you apply for out of the Carbon?
Yeah, so we applied for, I think, $24,000, and so that includes the bike counters themselves, the installation, some funding for the Center for Integrated Spatial Research, as well as the Civinomicon survey, and what are the other things that are in that? That might be it. It's on the Civinomicon page, but
Okay, great.
essentially that's what they would be going for.
And so, if you don't have if you by chance don't get the Carbon Fund, I mean, let's hope you do. If you by chance don't get it, what are your alternative funding plans?
I think we're thinking about doing some kind of crowdfunding source so that we'd be able to get the community to provide some crowdfunding for that. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
What will these statistics be used for, these bike counters? Is it to choose where we're going to kind of revamp bike lanes, or are we going to do some changes with the traffic pattern? I know downtown there's a lot of streets where you have to turn, you have to make boxes and things like that. Are we trying to make these areas where there's more bikes more bike friendly, or?
Yeah, so this would be sort of a pilot project in that we would be able to install them and see what the data looks like, and determine from there how we can use that sort of evidence of where people are riding to support projects. A lot of cities that have bike infrastructure that are working toward becoming more bike friendly have been installing the counters for and being able to use those to say, look, there's people riding here, we need to improve this area, or just to have a better comprehensive sense of like, are there people riding in? One goal of the city is to double bike ridership by 2020, so this would be one way to say, look, we actually did double bike ridership, let's keep going with that, and let's get more improvements and things like that.
I think it's important to mention that right now the city is going to be updating their bicycle transportation plan, and so a lot of this work that the students are going to be doing is going to feed into that plan.
This may be something that you've already thought about, but to ask the community, maybe through a Civinomics workshop, where are the big intersections before you put bike counters out there?
Yeah, I think that's definitely, we haven't made any final decisions on where they go, and I think that a big purpose and why I want to do this is to engage the community in this. There's been other projects in the past that have done bike infrastructure improvements, and I think there's just so much room to invite the community to give that feedback. So I think that's a great idea. And I think those two that we've thrown out there, the Bay and High and the Ron and Gulch, are good because they're for different reasons. One would be like showing UCSC ridership, and the other one would be a brand new place that we could actually have count for every single person that's crossed that area, since it's going to be a brand new thing. So, but I think we are open to other ideas for locations. So thank you. Yeah.
Town Park, I see a lot of people going through that intersection.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions?
I just like to mention that if you don't get the funding, which could be an idea, then with the funding you get day-to-day data of how many people were crossing this intersection every single day. If not, it's very inexpensive to do a sampling. So you put somebody on the cross and does a manual count, and you do this several days, and then you do an average. So that gives you an idea of the figures that you're talking. So it's not ideal, but if you don't get the funding, it's an alternative.
I think there are people that do that on a consistent, or like maybe a yearly basis, and I think we're trying to get some data from them as well to identify where would be a good place to install the bike counters. But having an automated thing that we can have consistently, and also have on a website that the public can just go and say, how many people passed by this intersection
So
yesterday?
you see trends, you see seasonality, so it's a much better option. But
Yeah.
yes,
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
So next we have Tracy.
Okay, yeah, come on up. So this came out of the water group. The idea is for a dynamic infographic that will help build a public understanding of the dynamics of our water supply and the way that it fluctuates on a seasonal and actually even daily basis. Our conversation started out with kind of a pretty general consensus in the group that people don't really seem to get, where our water comes from. They don't really have a visceral understanding of it, so we want to enhance that with a really nice visual representation of some kind. I envision this being something that is, fed in real time by data from, from the various water districts and, the Pajaro Valley Water Management Agency, which has a really a fairly robust and getting bigger recycled water project. So, so that's kind of the whys. I initially felt that this could be something that would be kind of, it would be dynamic, but it would basically be static. This would be something like maybe that would live on the Sentinel's site somewhere, and people would go check it the way they check the water, the way they check the weather. And so you could go see at any given point in the year, like, where's our, if I'm living in Santa Cruz, I turn on my tap, where's that coming from? Is it coming from the San Lorenzo River right now? Is it coming from, like Major's Creek? Is it Major's Creek? Major's Laguna? Yeah, but anyway, there are a few of them. So, yeah, I had initially thought that this would be, something living online, and then others came in and suggested that this could be like a physical structure, like those sculptures of the mountains that you see in the park's headquarters, only probably significantly more high-tech, and something that could be interactive. In terms of funding, I think this could be something that could be done for $0, and here to explain why that might be so.
So I've been talking to a lot of grad students at UCSC, and a lot of the conversation that I hear is, we have these thesis projects, and we want to do something that not only helps us out, in getting our degree and getting our, graduate degree, but also that betters the community. And I've talked to cartography experts, I've talked to film experts, documentary experts, and this can totally, if we presented it correctly, this can be a thesis project that they could work on through UCSC, so it could be funded through UCSC potentially. So using GIS software, GIS tracking, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So this can be an awesome project that can happen realistically amongst students. And can you imagine going right outside the mall and seeing this beautiful, beautiful interactive infographic where you can see where all the water sources are coming from, and like a live update of how we're using water and how much we're using, so we can actually have a visualization rather than hearing, oh yeah, we have a water problem. Everyone knows we have a water problem, but how bad and how can we really in our head perceive that we have a water issue? And I think this would be a great step in educating the public on this water issue that we really need to address. So
I was wondering if this is something that you're thinking of just for Santa Cruz City or for Watsonville and the entire county as well?
Oh, I'm sorry, for the whole county. Yeah, because these are watersheds, and so that's the part that we're kind of trying to drive home, is kind of sort of the natural sources of this water, where it's coming from. So yeah, countywide.
I wonder if you could talk with the water agencies about, I don't know that you really can do this for no funding, especially if it's interactive and so forth, but maybe if the water agencies, because they really will benefit from this. If they could kick in $5,000 each then you could put something really neat and interactive together, and they might be into it.
Yeah, I agree. When I filled out the initiative on this side, I put that if we can't get away with doing it for nothing, that the water districts, I think, would benefit from this public education, and it's not a very high cost for them, really.
And you might even be successful with crowdfunding, because there is an artistic element to
That's
this
true.
that could
That's true.
appeal to a broad range of people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I would echo that sentiment about the water districts participating. The water districts throughout the county have a lot of outreach that they have been doing and continue to need to do. So I think they'd be a great partner. I love the idea. I just learned recently, I live in the San Lorenzo Valley. City of Santa Cruz gets their water from the San Lorenzo River. We living in the San Lorenzo Valley, we don't take any water from the San Lorenzo River. We take our water before it gets to the San Lorenzo River. And I thought that was, something I didn't know after living there for 30 years.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, guys.
All right, so next up, we're gonna move some up again because I have to leave, so hold on there for
Okay.
a second. Peggy?
All right. Okay,
so I was in the local economy group, and I want to take a shout out to the local economy group that had more initiatives and more activity on Civinomicon Civinomics than any other group. There you go, local economy group. Although you other guys, you can still catch up, you know. So, and another thing, I just wanted to encourage everybody to vote on the initiatives they like. If you hear something you like, you know, it's up there. If you vote on it, people can see that everybody likes it. So, anyway, talking about local economy, the initiative I'm talking about is a little more general than what a lot of the other ones are, but it's something that's going around and around in our community, and it's a really good idea for, I think, all of us to be aware of, which is, sometimes it's called branding, but just to have a focus on the positive aspects of our community and what is so beautiful and wonderful about living here, about doing business here, about being in public service here or being a student here. I think it's something that bringing up aspects of our community like how important our environment is, really emphasizing that helps, for example, businesses to understand what ways they could and should grow. It helps people from out of our area to understand when they come here what the benefits they would get. So I think it's something that doesn't always get done enough. There's a general feeling of that, and I'm glad the community is really starting to coalesce around that idea. I know that we talked about the city of Santa Cruz recently put out an insert in a business journal that was kind of not just emphasizing us as a good place to do business, but really focusing on the surfing, the cycling, the amazing things about Santa Cruz, because it can go together, and it's not every community that puts those things together, and we have a real advantage that way. Any questions? It's not really a question. Okay, good, thank you.
All right, yeah. Eric.
Are you going to introduce me?
I need to now.
Okay. So this is an initiative that came out of the public safety workshop. And we were weirdly fortunate in that the Public Safety Citizens Task Force that's been working for 6 months, they released their report on Wednesday. So it just gave us some really great information to work with. Lots of bad news in it. Among the bad news is, well, I don't know if it's bad news or not, but it's just a fact that most of the crime that takes place in Santa Cruz is committed by people who have drug or alcohol abuse problems. And most of them just get shuffled in the door and back out the door. There are 160 people in Santa Cruz that last year were responsible for 3,500 arrests. Half I'm looking at my background here. Yes, homelessness and serial inebriates account for nearly half of the police department arrests. So our proposal is to divert people from the criminal justice system and into to expand treatment options for substance abusers who commit crimes. So basically it would dramatically expand the drug court. The drug court does exist here, but it's only available to people who are first-time offenders, sometimes second-time offenders. So the people who need this help the most can't get it. And it doesn't exist. So I made up the number because the workshop wouldn't let me publish unless I made up a number. So I said 10, I have no idea what it would cost. It would cost a lot of money. But it would also save a lot of money because right now the money is being spent in the court system. And not only that, but it's being lost because, we were talking yesterday, who are the victims of these crimes? Well, the victims are every little kid in Santa Cruz who doesn't get to go to the park because there are people living in the park who are drunk and wasted on heroin. It's businesses downtown are victims of this situation. Of course, this is one of those huge national problems that we can't just solve here, but we might be able to. So I was thinking there's one way we can fund it that's new, which is that most of these people in a few months are going to have health insurance. They don't right now. So that's a funding source that could be tapped to help pay for this. I also think that one of the things I think would be a helpful thing is that and I'm thinking now that really the goal of this initiative wouldn't be to make this thing happen like that, but it may make sense to sort of continue the work of the Citizens Task Force and create another task force to look at this specific issue. And I think the board of directors or the people who could make this happen would come from not just the usual suspects, not just the counties and the cities and the law enforcement and the health or the service providers, although obviously they should be involved, but I think we should also involve the private sector, you know, the hospitals, the university. I think that's it. Any questions? Yeah?
I think you should involve some people who want to be clean, who want to see a way out and have their ideas on this.
That's a good idea. There's, by the way, I really encourage you to read the task force's document. Susie, we were blessed. Susie O'Hara, who wrote the thing, who was the staff director, was our moderator. So it was enormously educational. In the report, they interviewed a 20-something heroin addict. Local kid, grew up here. Grandma's on the west side. He steals from her to support his habit. The kid, I don't know if he's still alive. I mean, he's in very bad shape, and he wants help. And I think a lot of people in this circumstance really do want help. Micah?
Just to point out, there are some numbers that are coming out of the task force and other, discussions about this. So I encourage you and your group to get some more research going. And it's great when everyone's thinking similarly.
Yeah, I will definitely. I got to admit, I mean, I did this mostly as a journalistic project. As you know, that's what I do. It's not like I thought, okay, I'm really going to try to make this happen. But now I'm thinking, well, why not?
Right.
So, yeah, maybe.
At the very least, a feature article on Weekly or something.
Exactly.
Was
Yeah.
this exercise focused just on the city of Santa Cruz or the whole county?
Whole county. Yeah, there are different shaped problems in North County and South County. I mean, I don't know if you know, crime is much worse in the city of Santa Cruz than it is in the city of Watsonville, including both violent and nonviolent crime. And the addiction's different. It's a lot. Apparently, right now among the gangs in Watsonville, heroin's very popular. So, yeah, they're different shaped problems, but they're very obviously very closely related. Okay, thank you.
If we want to vote for that initiative, is that called expand the services of the methadone clinic? What's your initiative called?
That's not I think it's called
Expand treatment options for substance abusers who commit crimes.
Yeah. I edited it about an hour ago, or half an hour ago. It's there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, expand treatment options is the keywords.
Okay, and next up, we have Rachel, who I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're speaking on behalf of the whole water group?
I would say I'm speaking on behalf of the water group that came today. As Mark Twain said, whiskey is for drinking and water is for fighting. We didn't do a lot of fighting, but we did agree on a couple of main principles, and this is similar, in its generality to Peggy's initiative. We had two under one, which is called Shifting the Water Conversation in Santa Cruz County. And in order to shift it, we looked at two fulcrums of existing administrative and elected bodies. And the first one we looked at was the County Board of Supervisors. There was a general discussion wanting the County Board of Supervisors to take a bigger leadership role than they have been in coordinating water solutions in our county. And so the first part of the initiative is to request the county supervisors develop a coordinated approach to cooperation across the county water agencies in solving our regional water supply problems. And to that end, we may write them a letter of request, we may request a meeting of the people in our group. Really, this was a nice exercise in thinking about next steps. Water being such a complex, deep issue that we realize any really specific proposals to solve our water supply problem have been studied to death and probably have deep, deep research already done on them. So we weren't attempting in our group to solve the supply issue, but maybe shift the tenor and parameters of the conversation about water to maybe yield some better results than the last round that resulted in where we are at now, especially in the city having considered and discarded desal at great cost. Well, I wouldn't say it's totally discarded, but almost. It's been stalemated at the moment or sidelines, but it's an interesting case in point of a conversation that took a long time and a lot of expense and didn't solve yet the problem. So the second part of our initiative is and I understand there's a city task force on water being formed right now, is that correct? So the fact that it's not formed yet was a really exciting proposition to our group because we wanted to encourage that task force to provide some pretty specific parameters around their discussion, which would really focus very narrowly on conservation and supply and not get too deeply enmeshed in what we were calling secondary effects on growth or transportation, because we felt like that may have been where it got derailed and too complicated. And we also felt that hand in hand with this task force might need to be a more concentrated effort to educate the general public about the costs of doing nothing. And we joked about, but not really, having an EIR to describe what it meant to the fish and to us as the public to not solve this problem, what that would look like under a 5-year drought. And so part of that task force could be, or it could be the agencies themselves getting together to develop some very graphic scenarios for what happens to our everyday behaviors in business and individual lives under a 2, 3, and 5-year drought scenarios. I'm a big person on scenario building, and I read a lot of Whole Earth reviews where they're spinning out, and Peter Warshall is great at scenario building, but it would be nice to have some graphic scenarios built on a drought scenario of not having a supply or a buffer for Santa Cruz, because I think then the public will get a better grasp on what it means not to take showers, every third day, or for hotels not to be able to do laundry under a 5-year drought. And it just seems to us as a group that we hadn't, that the public hadn't grokked yet the real implications of not having solved this. It's easy in a non-drought situation to think everything's just going to go on as is until you hit the 3rd or 4th year. So we encouraged some sort of public education process come out of the task force or out of the agencies that would help the public get a better, more specific grasp on scenarios of solving and not solving, and maybe that will focus the conversation around a couple of supply options as well as conservation options. So those are the two things, to implore and ask the task force to get more narrow in its focus and to think about it in this way. I'm happy to take any questions. Yeah.
I sorry I missed the conversations the past days, but I've been attending the workshops that the Santa Cruz Water Board has been giving. And my understanding is that the problem is not only a drought scenario, it's that today we are over depleting the water table and there is saltwater intrusion, so that even if there is no drought, we are in trouble already.
Yeah, in the Potter Valley Water Basin, that is very true. Their overdraft is causing problems now, and Soquel. And so we're in an immediate situation in parts of our county, and that's just, kind of a feature of what the rest of us could be facing. Yeah.
That's something that has to be strongly reflected on whatever is done.
At the county level, that's true, and that's why we wanted to see a more regional approach, because some of these regional things have started to be proposed, but I think it needs to be bigger than that.
I came yesterday briefly. My name's Marilyn Crenshaw, and one of my tags is the Blue Architect. And in 2012, I formed a 501c3 specifically on public education and outreach about water. So I'm all queued up to do exactly what you just said. So if anybody could point any grants to me that I could write to try and get funding to do this, I'm ready to go. And I've done work, I know all those studies that have been studied to death on what all the conservation stuff is. And everything I've attended before always said, it needs to be public education and outreach. The public has to get fluent on it.
That was also our conclusion, yeah.
Rachel, I apologize because I didn't hear you clearly. Is this, when I talked to Hillary about this, even though it's a city thing, she actually was talking much more regional in scope?
Maybe Micah can answer that. I don't know whether, I thought the task force was specific to the city, but because the city asked for it to be formed. Can you illuminate?
It is a city task force. It kind of mirrors how we've been going along so far, where it's a city task force, but part of the city's exploration is how to support and integrate with other systems. So I know that's sort of a funny answer, but that's the truth.
Well, because when I asked her about non-city, non-residents being on it, she said yes. So.
Well, she knows better than I do. She usually picks who's on the task force.
Okay.
But it is a city task force, but we are thinking about regional solutions as part of what the city does.
Okay.
So maybe as an outshoot of this initiative will be to go immediately before it gets farmed and see that we can make it as broad and regional as possible in its scope without losing its city focus, if that makes any sense. Yeah. Any more questions? Thanks so much.
All right, next up we have Rosalie.
Hey. So I was part of the homelessness topic group, and we came up with some neat initiatives. One of which Don Lane put together, and we hope for your input on, is to create an outreach group to go out to homeless encampments, and an outreach group of, let me find it on here so I can actually explain it better. But yeah, an outreach group of social workers that would go out to homeless encampments and help provide resources to individuals who are residents of homeless encampments, and also be part of when Santa Cruz Police Department goes and clears some encampments, be part of that task force to go out with them to help people who are losing where they live, and give them resources to the Homeless Services Center and other possible shelters they can go to. And the one that we were really working on today is about providing additional support for programs that provide occupational preparedness training, especially those that focus on providing occupational preparedness training for housing insecure or financially insecure individuals. And basically I'll read you our summary. It's really, I haven't published this initiative just yet because I have some people to talk to, and I really have no idea the funding scope of it just yet. Definitely want to talk to some people who are good at scenario building, because I've really never done that before. And so the summary is: programs which provide occupational preparedness training for individuals who experience housing and financial insecurity are incredible locations of collaboration, education, healing, and growth. There is an incredible population of talented, untapped potential resources. These are people who experience constant barriers to participate in the local economy. So those are housing and financially insecure individuals. Providing additional support for programs which provide occupational preparedness training would allow their resources to be able to reach a larger group of talented folks. Additional support could mean creating alternative programs and or providing more funding for programs that already exist. And so as I'm sure a lot of you know in here in Santa Cruz, we've got the Homeless Garden Project. That's an incredible occupational preparedness training program that already exists. And so an idea would be to maybe help them so that, because right now they can only hire 15 people at a time, maybe help them so that they can hire more people, maybe 30 people at a time. Also help them be more accessible, So it's over on the west side, and if maybe we funded a shuttle that left from, say, the public library at 9:30 in the morning, brought homeless folks or housing insecure folks over from downtown to the west side, then that would give them opportunity for transportation. And then there's the Day Worker Center of Santa Cruz County, and then there are a couple of programs that we have here in Santa Cruz that could potentially provide occupational preparedness training, such as the Computer Kitchen, the Bike Church, the Fabrica, if they would be interested in collaborating with like the Homeless Services Center or that group. And then we were developing an alternate program idea, and that would be a Santa Cruz County New Skills Center. And we would want to develop and build a skills center dedicated to assisting housing or financially insecure individuals interested in learning new skills and pursuing vocational training. And that could be volunteer run cooperatively or maybe business sponsored. And yeah, so that's what we're thinking about. Any questions or comments, ideas? Yeah?
And Rosalie, please put it on as an initiative. We can't vote on it until you.
I will. I want to make it a little bit more clear. I appreciate that. Yes, I will. Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, next up we have Steve.
I was with the transportation group, and we talked about a lot of things, but one of the things that we talked about that I kind of like, and because it's kind of what I do for a living, was using the rail corridor that's going to become the rail trail corridor, using that to create a rail trail fiber corridor. Serves a couple of purposes. One is that you need better fiber infrastructure, better internet infrastructure in Santa Cruz County. That's true all the way down the coast. But you have great internet access right here in this building, but that doesn't extend to Capitola or Watsonville or up to Davenport or even parts of Santa Cruz. So there's a lot of different ways to attack that, but one way to do it is to run fiber optic lines down the rail trail and make that some sort of community access or available on what we would call in the business a dark fiber basis, not just a carrier basis. That's one thing it would do. The other thing it could do is provide a source of revenue for the rail trail project, because fiber optic generates revenue. You can lease out fiber optic lines, you can lease out conduit, you can charge money for services you provide via fiber optics. So that was another potential source of revenue. It would center, at least initially, on the Regional Transportation Commission, and they were here yesterday presenting about their programs, and they kind of like this idea. The cost would be anywhere from a couple $100,000 to several $1 million, depending on exactly what was done and how long it took and what level of involvement was private and what level of involvement is public. If you just put conduit in as you're building the trail part of the rail trail over 20 years, it'll cost a couple $100,000, because as you dig a hole, before you throw the dirt back in, you throw conduit in and then cover it up, and then it's there, and that's pretty cheap. On the other hand, that's kind of haphazard, and it takes 20 years. The other way to do it is to pull back, look at it from a project perspective right now and say, well, what would it cost to just run fiber optic cable along that corridor? Depending on how you do it, that's $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, $10 million, and it depends on a lot of things. But so there are some decision points in there. One is, what kind of time frame does the Regional Transportation Commission want to do this on? Because they're the ones that own the rail trail. And what involvement do you want, or what level of private investment, private partnership involvement do you want in the project? Because that'll be a source of funding both to build the project, but also as you go down the road to pay for the other things that are associated with it. So that was the initiative I put up. Yeah.
Sorry. So I understand the idea of conduit, and I understand the idea of private internet providers, running fiber optics such as Cruise.io, for example.
Yeah.
But you said something about public internet access via the rail line? I don't understand.
No, well, you can use it, public agencies can use it. When I say publicly available, and this is really, it's not really publicly available as in private citizen publicly available. It's publicly available as in a company like Cruise.io would have access to dark fiber, which if you don't own the dark fiber, you generally don't have access to it. There are exceptions. The fiber that was pulled over the hill to UCSC and then here to Cruise.io is an exception to that. But in a lot of places up and down the coast, if you want access to fiber, you don't really get access to fiber. AT&T will sell you bits. Say, well, we won't sell you fiber, but we'll sell you 100 megabits. Here's how much it costs.
So I understand if the conduit was publicly owned, then different companies could get licensed to put in fiber.
Right.
If the fiber itself was publicly owned, how would the access work? Because don't you have to put up different types of boxes and connections, and would it be?
Well, in a fiber optic cable could have 144, could have 288 strands in it. And as, just as a point of comparison, the city of Palo Alto has done this, and they have 144 strand cable that runs around the city. It's about 40 miles of cable that they use. They sell dark fiber to private companies, commercial enterprises, and they have somewhere around 60 or 70 customers, and this is in the heart of Silicon Valley. So if you put in 144 strands or 288 strands, and the number of strands, it's really the cost is all the construction work, not the number of strands. You're going to have enough basically to build another Silicon Valley here. And if you run out, that would be a really high-class problem.
Right. Okay. So your proposal is either do the conduit or to do the fiber cable.
Right. Well, you've got to do both eventually, but the question is what part of that is publicly owned and publicly funded, what part of that is privately owned and privately funded, and on what time frame do you want to do it on?
Mike, that's done through leases. The pair we lease to Sunnyvale is $5,000 a month for a 5-year lease.
Right. Okay. I know the electeds are interested in this, so keep pushing them because they don't know what they're talking about.
Oh, yeah. A lot of them do.
I don't. Keep pushing me.
We'll push. Any other questions? Yeah.
Where is this initiative showing up on the?
Infrastructure.
Yeah.
It's an initiative. It's not.
Of what?
Santa Cruz County.
Transportation.
Well, it's
In Civinomicon.
in Civinomics, it's an initiative under Santa Cruz County. It's not under the Civinomicon as one of the 8 areas. It's tagged as Civinomicon.
Then we can't vote on it.
No, you can.
Sure you can.
I'll be funded, yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
I think the problem is that, did you include Civinomicon in the title?
Yes.
Okay, then it
I
should
think it
show.
is on Civinomicon.
Yeah, maybe,
It's not under transportation.
it's a separate issue. I'll show you, don't worry. Okay, next up we have Amelia.
Hello, everybody. My name is Amelia Conlin. I'm the Director of People Power of Santa Cruz County, and we do bicycle advocacy throughout the county. And my initiative has to do with completing the bike network across Santa Cruz County. We have a lot of great bike infrastructure here, but we have a real need to tie it all together if we want to make biking easy and safe and comfortable for everyone in our community. We have a need to make the scary spots safer, to improve wayfinding, and to produce more separated facilities. So why is this important? Why do we want to get more folks on bikes? There are a few statistics that I always come back to, and one is that nationally 40% of trips, all trips, are 2 miles or less, and over 50% of trips are 3 miles or less. Now that is a really quick, easy bike ride, 15, 20 minutes, you're not gonna break a sweat, you can wear whatever you want to. That's accessible for a lot of us, and that is where our opportunity lies to get people on bikes. So traffic is a major issue in our county, and if we can shift some of those short trips over to biking and walking, we can have a significant impact on that. Transportation is the major source of emissions in Santa Cruz County, and both the city and the county have stated goals of increasing biking and walking, reducing single occupancy vehicle car trips to improve our air quality, reduce our emissions. And biking and walking is great for people's health. If we can get them out on their bikes more, we solve obesity problems, we make them happy because they're getting so much fresh air. It's good all around. So how do we do this? We've got a couple ways. Various scales, transportation projects are not quick or simple, but there are things we can do no matter how much money we have available. Now, folks yesterday talked quite a bit about the Monterey Bay Sanctuary Scenic Trail. That is going to be a major asset for bike commuting in the county. It runs within 50% of our county's population. It runs by many of our schools, many of our parks, many of our employment centers, and it's going to provide a safe off-street facility for people to bike and walk. That's an expensive project. We're going to be building it in chunks. We need about $115 million to complete the major corridor, but that is something we can accomplish through grants and private fundraising. So kind of the middle tier of expense here is a signage program. Like I said, we do have a lot of great bike infrastructure, but you often don't know where it is. It's often not apparent that there could be a safe route close to you on a parallel street. And so to tie that all together, we can put signs directing you to the nearest bike facility. And separated bike facilities are also in this middle tier of cost. This is a trend popping up around the country to provide facilities that are not just a stripe of paint on the road separating you from traffic, but some kind of physical barrier, maybe green paint on the lane to make it very clear that that is a bike area and not for cars, and separating the lane with things like we have on the Beach Street cycle track down by the boardwalk, little raised lumps, or up on High Street, bollards separating you from traffic, but you can use planters, you can use parked cars, you can use a variety of things to keep cars out of the bike lanes. And then we have things we can do that are very low cost and very easy. And that includes identifying intersections that are scary for cyclists and putting things like a bike box at the front of it, which gives cyclists a safe place to wait while they're making a left turn, making sure that cars aren't turning right into them. Those are very cheap, very quick. We can do that right now. And things like painting lanes green, especially in conflict zones, places where cars are getting on the freeway, bikes are going straight. Those are places where we need to identify that there could be that kind of conflict and that cars should look out. So this has a major benefit for our community. We do want to reduce traffic, we do want to improve health, we do want to reduce our emissions, and biking is a really great way to do all of those things. Thank you. Any questions?
It sounds like a great suite of really nice plan. And something just occurred to me, so I thought I'd just put it out there. Like, how about bike storage once you get to town? Mm-hmm. Since people are fearful, rightfully so, about just leaving bikes tied up at bike racks.
Yeah, that's a really important piece.
Have you guys talked about that, or is that something that you?
Yeah, the city does have a great bike blocker system here downtown. We do want to encourage businesses to have safe and secure bike parking at different employment centers, so employees have safe places to leave their bikes. And we do want to see bike parking at every business around the county. Yes.
I bike around all over one of the biggest problems I see that maybe you guys don't is glass in the bike lanes. And I have gotten more flats in Santa Cruz than I did from riding from Seattle to San Francisco, spending 2 months in San Francisco. Not one flat. Came to Santa Cruz, and within 3 weeks we had 7 flats. It is really bad, and they need some way to clean that stuff up. I don't know if somebody's doing it on purpose or not. It's just really odd.
It often just gets swept off the road and into the bike lane. Yeah. And that is an advantage of separated bike facilities also. You have more of a buffer between car traffic and the bike lane. That keeps some of the spray out of there. Yeah.
Going back to all these hazards and difficulty in finding, accessible paths, now that it's fall, almost winter, and the days are shorter, there's more darkness, and Santa Cruz doesn't really have very many, street lamps, things like that. So what do you recommend as like a solution for that, for people that want to bike after dark? Because it is getting dark, 5:30, people, if they're biking home from work, I mean, my doctor the other day was biking to go and get his car because it was being worked on. I had to go get his son at soccer practice and things like that, but it's after dark. So then there's that conflict with safety because we don't have street lights, and bike lights can only offer so much illumination.
Bike lights are very important, and there are some really good ones out there. I have friends that go mountain biking after dark, going over routes and crazy trails and things, and they do it with really, really powerful front lights. So there's definitely a solution out there. Get a good commuting light. Anybody else?
We can't do all of this at once. So how do we define the priority spots to make that first corridor?
I think this should be a community conversation. I think we should get as many people involved as possible. We need to look, we do have a fairly straightforward county, kind of, linearly based along the coast here. So there are a couple of routes, just a few main routes to get across town. And I think we look at where people are going, where the employment centers are, we have conversations with different folks in the community. And we look at where there's the most opportunity, I think, where the best facilities are already and where it's cheapest and easiest to fill in the gaps. Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have our own Esther Kim.
Hi, everyone. I actually started this initiative a little, I was working on it before Civinomicon and kind of started finishing it up here over the weekend. And my initiative is to add a dog waste dispenser to its beach, and not just its beach, but possibly Mitchell's Cove or Mimi DeMarta, which is a new dog park that opened up right on Broadway. And I kind of want to lay down how much it would cost, the benefits of it, and why it's harmful to the environment. I have a little dog, or not little, he's huge, he's like 80 pounds, but he's always going to look 14 pounds to me, So let's see, the city legislation states that dog owners must clean up all of their dog's defecation and must carry dog defecation removal devices at all times. But let's be honest, that is not always the case. Whether it's people forget, to grab a bag in the morning, or there's that phantom poop that gets away, when you're chatting with your girlfriends or whatever. Sorry, guilty. But here's kind of my background on it. So the Environmental Protection Agency deemed that pet waste is a non-point source of pollution, and this happened in 1991. And it puts dog waste in the same category as oil and toxic chemicals. And let's see, they estimate that 2 or 3 days worth of waste from just 100 dogs will contribute enough bacteria to temporarily close a bay and all watershed areas within 20 miles of it, just to swimming and shellfishing. And I don't know what we're feeding our dogs, but dog waste is a contaminant. Let's see, and I don't know if you guys all have dogs, but they have little plastic bag stations where people can put their own bags and share with the community. But a lot of times that I go, these are empty, or they have holes in them. I don't know if it's like a joke that people, it's really disgusting joke, but I mean, it would be really cheap. I calculated the costs, and I found a dog waste installation guide online. It's really easy to do, so if anyone wants to add a dog dispenser, it would be very easy to get done. Let's see, the total cost would be $258 per dog waste station, and that includes the first 3,200 dog bags. And we already have, I mean, this initiative is online. If anyone wants to, I don't know, add one to their local dog park in the county, it'll be information. I did a lot of homework on it. It's all written. So that's my initiative. I just wanted to let it up, kind of empower people to, and have the resources for people to, you know, add a dog waste dispenser, you know, if they wanted to. So I'm going to work on it with a couple of my friends. $258 isn't much to raise. If you guys wanted to crowdfund it, or I don't know, possibly talk to the SPCA or PetSmart, you know. But yeah, any questions?
So who do you need to get approval from at the city for this? Do you know?
So I think you have to go to the Parks and Recreation Department, and the contact for that would be Mariah Roberts. And I haven't talked to her about this, but I mean, I have a great case that you can present to her, and all the numbers, I've calculated it. Let's see. So I have recurring costs, and the pros and cons, the economic benefits of it, and yeah, it makes dog owners happy because it shows that the city cares about dog owners, and it makes non-dog owners happy because they don't have to walk around, you know, dog defecation.
Well, I thought we had, I don't have a dog, but I walk by the dog park all the time. And I thought there was a dispenser for bags, but what you're saying is that the city doesn't put bags in it, they just let other people put bags in it?
Yeah, so it's like this little, it's like a little cylinder shape with holes in it, and if you have an extra bag, or if your dog, you know, can go to the restroom, you could leave your bag in this container, and then someone else can grab it if they forgot.
So
but I
could
guess
we
lots
just-
of people forget. Yeah.
So could we just stock that with bags? Would that be a way to?
It could be, but another problem is that a lot of people would just grab a whole bunch of bags at a time, and
So the dispenser, you can only grab
one at a time, and people can't tamper with them, and I think that's a big issue too. I've picked out a bag and I'm like, there's a huge hole in it. If I just blindly, yeah, nothing pretty. Any other questions?
I was thinking that this would be a good advertising media for a pet company or pet store to have their logos on these stations or on the bags.
Yeah,
Then
they
they may be a funding source.
Totally.
This is something we're gonna need on the rail trail too.
Yeah. I mean, it's just cleaner too. And I've been to dog parks where I've seen these poop stations and I'm just happy. I'm just like, oh, sweet. Like,
Is there a receptacle component to this? Or
Yes.
is it just the dispenser that you're talking about?
so most dog parks do have a receptacle for dog feces. But there are different levels of stations. There's a complete station where you have like different quality bags, industrial bags for lunch dogs or something, and they have, and then they also have special bins right next to it. But I've noticed that most parks do have two separate trash cans, one for one for dog food.
I think that's a great idea for like trails and paths, especially on West Cliff. I just spent a lot of time at the dog park in Oakland, and the way they do it there is they've got a couple of poop trash cans around the dog park, and they've got, and each one has a homemade poop scuba. You've got the like dustpan type thing, but it's like the poop pan, and you've got the thing that you get the poop and put it in the pan, and then you just dump it, and it's just a lot less waste.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Less plastic bags too, if you just had one. I mean, but what I'm trying to present is just, an easy way for people who didn't bring a bag, like pick up after their dogs. because I mean, Mimi de Marta is a brand, is the newest park in Santa Cruz, in Santa Cruz City, and I go there, a couple times a week, and there's just poop everywhere. And it's a brand new park, and you would never think that it was brand new now, because, I mean, of all the dog. Yeah. That's it for me. If you guys type in dog in the Civinomics search, it should show up under the initiatives.
All right, so I'm up next on the list, but before we continue with these presentations, I think everyone should just get up a little bit, maybe stand up, move around a bit, some stretching going. You need to quickly get a bagel, feel free. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and get started. So, my initiative, which I just published, which is woefully incomplete, and all I pretty much have is just basically summary, but I'll tell you pretty much the whole idea based on what I've gleaned from the transportation part of it. So I bounced around all the different groups yesterday. That was kind of my job. I didn't go to one particular one, but I kind of bounced around. And so I would like to share an initiative that I think is very personal to me, and it's something that I know a bunch of people in my particular position have experienced before, whether they be students or people who are dependent on public transportation to get everywhere. In that I want to double the frequency of the Highway 17 route to and from here to San Jose. So a little bit of story about my past years. So my past year, I actually lived in Walnut Creek, and I did a lot of my work for Civinomics remotely in terms of marketing and strategic partnerships and all that kind of stuff. But I would come every single week for our HQ meeting and our product meeting on Mondays and Tuesdays. And that meant getting up because I don't have a car, and I also don't have a bike. So, but I live right next to a BART station. So I'd hop on the BART train, I would take BART all the way down to Fremont, or if I was feeling particularly frisky, I'd take it to Millbury, take the Caltrain down. I would take a bus from Fremont or Caltrain to get to San Jose, and then, God, the most unreliable leg of every part of that journey was always a 17 bus. Whether my first bus was late and the connection time didn't go together, or the 17 was late, because let's be honest, the highway gets kind of clogged sometimes, there's no way of tracking it, and it only comes once an hour. There was many times, and my co-founders will tell you, where I missed the bus by minutes, seconds even. I'd see it pulling away, and I'd run, and I'd be like, okay, well, there's no way I'm going to get it, so I'm just going to sit here in the Dearden station for an hour. Now, I also have gone to and from San Francisco on the weekends many times, because San Francisco is a really fun place. Being that I don't have a car, I've got to use public transit the whole way. Big problem is, anytime you're on the weekend on the Caltrain, it's always packed going down to San Jose. Always, because everyone goes to San Francisco for the weekend. And a bunch of kids from Santa Cruz, UC Santa Cruz, go to San Francisco. Also, all the kids who go down to SoCal to go see their parents or whatever who live in SoCal have to come back. They come through the San Jose airport normally, take a shuttle, get to Dearden Station, and everyone clogs that 17 bus. I have ridden the 17 bus standing room only multiple times on a Sunday and Saturday night, basically clenched up there as we're going around the 17, going 40 miles an hour, slipping over. I've seen kids with their skateboards falling off the edge, banging people. I've sat next to people who are frankly not the best people to sit next to, smell-wise a lot of the times, because I've had to deal with the 17. That thing is packed all the time. Other times it's empty. And also on the Monday mornings, I can tell you there's actually a lot of people who use that bus to and from commuting, and there's actually, it recently had a special leg put right off in Scotts Valley that pulls up to a larger tech firm there. I forget what it's called. Maybe it's not Seagate or... Anyways, Scotts Valley is a big thing where they made a custom stop because there were so many people from that company who commute over the hill to go and work in Scotts Valley, so many people come from Santa Cruz. This bus needs to be improved because it's totally utilized, and judging from the annual Metro budget, I've seen that it actually pays for a lot of itself, pretty much. I mean, the fare is $5 each way, which, depending on how you do gas, what your efficiency is, pretty much what it costs. And I'll tell you what, that bus also goes pretty much the same pace you'll be going in a car, with the exception of Manu going crazy and doing it in 15 minutes in the 17. Aside if you're Manu Koenig, it usually takes you around 40, 50 minutes to get across the 17, which is pretty much what the bus takes, if you miss it on Scotts Valley. Now, given what Manu has also told me from his experience in going to Boulder, Colorado on the community leadership visit, is they realized this was a defined problem for people that were coming from Denver to Boulder. Apparently, Boulder is a network importer, and that more people actually go from Denver to go work in Boulder than people go from Boulder to go work in Denver. So what they realized quickly is that no one trusted the bus, therefore no one rode it. So they all, they had different types of transportation they would put before using the bus. So what Boulder did is they made a conscious investment, and they made sure that the bus from Denver would leave and go to Boulder every 15 minutes. And they were, even if it was empty, they were going to make sure that bus left every 15 minutes to make sure that people understood that you could depend on that bus. That you didn't need to check your schedule frantically on the Caltrain and know that you're going to have to make a running dash and maybe hop over a fence to try and catch a bus home or wait an hour. So they made that bus run every 15 minutes. And lo and behold, within 3 years, the bus started getting a lot more ridership. It started paying for itself because so many people knew and grew and could depend on that bus to leave consistency in times. I think reliability is one of the single greatest barriers to using public transportation. As someone who only uses transportation, reliability is my biggest factor in terms of whether or not I'm going to go and have fun or do the things I actually want to do. I don't want to own a car, to be honest. I mean, I know I'm probably going to have to soon as the Civinomicon gets bigger and to go everywhere. But I would love it if we could better optimize our transportation. And starting home, the biggest bottleneck that I've seen in my own personal experience as someone who uses all forms of public transportation here and around the county is Highway 17 is not reliable in terms of bus route. And I think if you made it more reliable, it would pay for itself. It would be a worthy investment for this community. It would take people off the road. Again, we know 30,000 people commute every single day over that hill. Google already sends a bus. Twitter already sends a bus. Why can't we put more buses on there? So during looking at the Metro budget, my estimated costs, this is give or take a couple because they don't break it down by bus route or cost. They break it down by staff time and they break it down by fuel efficiencies and all separate line items. But what I could glean is an initial cost of probably $800,000 for the first year that would slowly probably be able to make itself up, and that's to pay extra riders and fuel extra buses. And as that bus route became more popular, I think you'd probably see that annual number go down a little bit. But $800,000 to start, and go $800,000 for 3 years on an annual budget basis just to make up. If it makes up, we get extra money put back into the bus to make it better anyways. So that's my proposal. It's published, but it's not complete. I will be fleshing it out over the next night, but you get the basic idea. So everyone in this room, please go on and vote. And questions? Don't clap yet. Yes?
You purposely said that it being so crowded is a factor in wanting to do a second one.
On certain times, it's crowded during peak time, mainly weekends,
But that's part of how it pays for itself, correct? Because it is $5, so they need it to be that packed for it to help almost pay for itself, you said. So if we spread the same amount of people between two buses, now we're paying twice as much, but we're still getting the same amount of people, unless we can get some more. But still, that would be doubling how many people are riding the buses to take it.
So maybe I didn't make it clear. The biggest barrier to entry for most people using that bus, and one of the reasons why it's so crowded so many times, is because people miss buses. So if you have a Caltrain that's not synced up, that has, say, 40 UCSC students that are going back home, that's usually pretty much what you're going to get on a Sunday night. 40 students who show up, miss the bus by 2 minutes, now you have 2 full bus loads of 40 students and potentially more trains coming in that all pack it up. I think making it more reliable will ease up the crowding, but will still balance it out enough to have enough ridership to pay for itself. There's many times where I see that bus is empty, where it just left before the train got there, and you had your whole group of people that were planning on riding that bus.
If you know this answer, I'd love to hear it now. If not, it'd be a great thing to research. At what point, if any, does that bus, usually buses don't pay for themselves even when they're full, but I hear your point about the $5, so maybe this one's different. So is there a point, like if all the seats are full, and no one's standing, how close are we to paying for it? Or it'd be good to get some...
An ROI, basically, return on investment?
Right,
because
I think a lot of us can agree with you and imagine that more buses running more regularly would be more or less full. So the question is, where's that little dotted line where it's not an ongoing expense for the Metro?
Yeah, that's actually something I would totally look at. Payback period is really important for most of these sustainable projects, especially this kind of bus route.
And also just knowing present time, like how much, maybe that bus is even particularly subsidized. I don't know. It depends how many people, how many passengers per week or per month or per year use it. So,
okay, yeah, I'll look into it.
And also, and also possibly if there's more possible trips over there, the more people are going to want to take this 17 bus. I hear a lot of my friends who are like, well, how am I going to get to the city this weekend looking for ride shares? Well, there's the 17 bus, and there's Caltrain, and there's that. But they're just not sure if they're going to be able to get on the 17 bus, especially maybe not with their bike, which I've had trouble with as well. So.
Yeah. We'll right here first.
Yeah, I think it's a good initiative, but I think the problem goes beyond just Route 17. The service is pretty bad all around the county, and service in Watsonville is super unpredictable.
Mhm.
They will just don't do the stops or, change the route and things like that without telling people. And then I mentioned it to someone that was on the transportation yesterday. There's no bus routes on holidays from Watsonville to Santa Cruz. And to me, that the service is that
Yeah, it doesn't.
way,
Mhm.
it just, I don't think that helps the economy in any ways. I mean, in the county, I mean, so aren't you supposed to visit another place when you're on a holiday? And then a lot of people in the hospitality industry work here, so.
Yeah, I agree that this is part of a larger number of improvements that we've made. And actually, I've been on the bus to and from Watsonville, whether it's the 68 or any of the other buses that do it. And so I agree. It's part of a larger plan that needs to be done to optimize the public transit here. I was just a particular bottleneck that I've seen and had a lot of personal experience with, but I agree.
Yeah, I think it's going to go to things in San Francisco or San Jose. And do you think if there would be another one that would meet the last Caltrain coming back?
Yeah.
As it is, like, you can't stay later than like 8:30 in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they used to hold it for the Caltrain more, and they stopped doing that. There's one time it was on Caltrain coming to San Jose, so when it was a shopping cart on the track, and because the bus had left when the train came in, they gave everybody free taxi rides, but they don't do that now. So here's what told the bus.
Okay.
I can't explain why it's not synced, which isn't to say it shouldn't be synced, but it is partly paid for by the Amtrak system. So it's synced to Amtrak and not Caltrain. If the Amtrak train is late, then they will hold the bus or give you a taxi, but not the Caltrain. So that's not to say it shouldn't be synced to the Caltrain.
Well, oftentimes the weekend schedule of Caltrain works is that sometimes that you even look it up and you'll forget what hour you're getting on the Caltrain. You'll look it up and you realize, oh wow, the bus left 3 minutes before the Caltrain's even supposed to arrive. So unless some miracle of God happens, I'm going to be late for my bus and be chilling at Dearden Station for an hour, which isn't so bad. But I mean, to be honest, it's just chilling at a bus stop. All right. Well, thank you very much. And so next up, I have Marissa. Marissa.
I've been working with Marissa and other college interns around campaign finance reform. And the reason I think, and we have a local proposal to present, but really what inspired me is that I think we have a really bad national problem in politics, where money has it's a disproportionate amount of influence on politics. And even though our local culture isn't that bad, it's also not what it should be. And Marissa will go more into the specifics as far as numbers, but I think when I see a national problem, I think how can we have a local culture that's really exemplary? And that's what this proposal is about. There's about 70 other cities in the United States that have done similar things to what Marissa's going to present. So this isn't, we wouldn't be doing anything new. It's just a way to try to address the problem locally.
All right, thank you. My name is Marissa. I'm a student at UC Santa Cruz, and what we're working on currently is a proposal to better allow the city to serve as a public institution, a democratic public institution. So what we want to do is make elections fair, and by doing that, we can encourage individuals who maybe don't have necessarily the means to fundraise, or they don't have good connections to capital. So we're trying to open the playing field for people who maybe are not so well versed in that to run for city council. And another thing is to increase the quality of debate. Instead of focusing on fundraising, you can focus on conversations among people in the city and really networking. And so another thing is in presumption thereof to further prevent potential of corruption. And by doing this, We are going to change the voluntary limit to a max of $26,000, and if the candidate accepts this match, the city will match you in $5,000. So if you make $5,000, the city will donate $5,000 to your campaign. So that gives you more time to focus on speaking to people of the community and really to focus on your campaign. And another key to that, Am I missing anything? Okay, and then to make them the individual limits to $325 or $780 for organizations, I believe. And that is our proposal.
Assuming you have questions, it's pretty complicated, obviously.
Good question. That $5,000 from the city, what, do you know what fund that would come out of?
Yeah, there's currently a budget, and the cost of the ordinance would be no more than $50,000, and that is 0.0026% of the current budget of $192,627,172.
Not the cost of the ordinance, but the financial impact.
Yes, yes.
So it would just cost the city money, and it's quite a small amount of money relative to the whole budget.
And actually, there's an idea that you're saving money, so the people of the town aren't donating much more money to a specific candidate.
Yeah, if the city put in $50,000, it would prevent $60,000 to $100,000 being donated by individuals in the community. So, whether it's a cost or not, it's kind of.
One other question kind of related to that. Do you have any comment in the work you've done on this proposal on the possibility of having district elections in the city versus?
That's a different topic.
Okay.
Yes, it is. So I'm curious, so how did you arrive at the 5,000 figure? Was there a key bottleneck that kind of like informed that decision, or is that just an arbitrary number?
It's pretty much arbitrary. This is really a draft proposal. I mean, I think we would probably support different types of numbers. I think we were looking at something that would be the cheapest for the city, to be honest. So, going with the current voluntary expenditure ordinance of 26,000, and then making it a little bit harder to get the money from the city, so you wouldn't have 30 candidates who are all eligible to get financing. So you at least have to raise $5,000, which would cut out a lot of potential candidates, and it would leave a pool of, 6, 8, whatever. And also ours is a 1-to-1 match. In most other cities, it's higher. It's 4-to-1 or 6-to-1. We're just thinking that our culture isn't that bad, and that putting in sort of a cheaper program would sufficiently entice people to agree to the limit. But in case people don't know, this voluntary expenditure limit was put in about 15, 20 years ago, and for a long time all the candidates agreed to it. In the last 10 or 12 years, it's been kind of 50-50. All the candidates have agreed to the individual limits, but a lot of them have gone. Some of the candidates have raised $45,000. So, our concern is that that it's sort of getting away from us. And even though the overall limit isn't the most important thing, it's the individual limits. Once people are ignoring the ordinance, there's no reason to think that people aren't going to start ignoring the individual limits, which aren't mandatory. And so this idea is to kind of nip it in the bud while we still have a relatively polite culture and not end up with $500,000 city council races, which I think will happen eventually if we don't pass something stronger than what we have.
So just to clarify, so right now that you don't have to accept individual limits, so if, say, someone's running for city council, someone else cut them a check for 10 grand, and that would be totally legal?
If you don't agree to the voluntary expenditure ordinance, then you don't have to, there's no rules. Now, what's happened is some people like myself agreed to the voluntary expenditure limit. We accepted the individual limits and the total. Other people didn't agree to it, but just out of a kind of a respectful culture and on the concern that they would, get shown out, everyone, even people that haven't agreed to the ordinance, have agreed to the limits, the individual and organizational limits. But I'm concerned because I figure, well, that's cool. I really appreciate all the candidates for doing that, but given that people are ignoring other parts of the ordinance, how long is it going to take before a candidate ignores the individual limits too? So I'd rather we kind of, with regard to the individual limits, our proposal is simply to make them mandatory, straight up. So.
Hey, in the interest of moving us along, let's ask your questions to Micah online or in person. Thanks.
We also have a Facebook page, Santa Cruz Campaign for Democracy Reform, so check us out. Thanks.
Okay, next we have Rose.
Take me excuse me, it's gonna take me a second to get back to where I want to get to. So I was busy voting on everybody else's, which is a good reminder. Please vote on these because they aren't gonna rise to the top unless you all vote. So I was in the local economy group, and we have about 6 or 8 things posted. And I'm going to present on 2 of them very quickly, as soon as they come up. I'm on iPad. And one is the concept of a business concierge, regional business concierge. And the initiative was create a regional business concierge to assist new businesses navigate and fast track through regulations and other impediments and provide access to resources to successfully start their businesses in the region. That's it. We didn't get to any supportive data. It's more in the concept stage. Questions?
So one quick question on that. So would this tie into Peter Coates' open counter product?
Yeah, regional.
The regional rather than city?
And both dealing with regulation and access to resources. A lot of people don't know where to go.
So would this be like just a full-time staff person dedicated to that?
Yep.
Correct.
Exactly. And the second one was...
There's a question.
Yeah, another question?
Over here.
Oh.
It's actually a comment. I really like that idea because I don't think people don't quite understand that the open counter is just a medium for helping people process their applications. It doesn't provide any specific contact point or information or staff or whatever. So I could see where the two would work really well in the city and or the county.
Yeah.
Got another question back here.
Yes.
Hi, I was just gonna say that over at Cabrillo, there's the Small Business Development Center and there's also SCORE. So there's 2 entities that already help people do what you're saying, so if you
Well, I think, okay, my understanding is they provide resource information access, but I don't think they would provide regulation and impediment stuff. I'm
But
not
they
sure.
could, there could be a collaboration.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. There's opportunities for collaborators all over the place. Is it going dark in here, or is it me?
No, it's you accidentally touched something.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on that. The Small Business Development Center offers technical assistance and education the same that El Pájaro CDC does in Watsonville. But many times people don't come to us first, they go to the cities or the counties, and the idea is that then the county, if they see a need that could be fulfilled, this concierge, if the need could be fulfilled by either the CDC or the SBDC, they send them to them, but then they also connect them to commercial space. I mean, so they will kind of talk to the person and see all their needs and direct them to where those resources are in the county, and then also help them navigate the system to get permit certifications and all of that.
And the second one's even more, it's even shorter. Address the 5 business stages. When we were looking about what was the low-hanging fruit in keeping small businesses in our region, we wanted to discover, because we think there's a lot of information that people don't have about what's here in their own region. Grow our own, recruit, which is probably the most difficult, expand existing, and retain. Retain is the most critical. It's very, very expensive once you lose any local business to bring in another business to replace it. So we want people to look at that bandwidth when they're considering local
businesses. There was one, well,
Okay,
there
that's
are
all we
others.
have time for. Thank you.
Okay. Please vote.
Okay. Next we have up is Jim. We've got two Jims, so I think he was up first and then you go. Okay. No, you're up first.
So I'm Jim Howes with the Santa Cruz County Office of Education's Regional Occupational Program. And what we do is we provide those classes like culinary, construction technology, instead of home economics or woodshop where you build a lamp, you pour a foundation and you build a foundation. So what we did is yesterday we had some really good group of folks in our group, participating in our group, and we found there's a lot of information out there that's not understood or not known. And so we decided to build an educational collaborative so that we would be able to bring in the public, that being the businesses, the parents, the students, and anyone else, and form a group of stakeholders, because as we provide education to those folks, everybody's participating in that process. They're either getting an employee, a new hire that isn't really ready in some ways. So there's things we could always do to make that better. It's a no-cost item, because we would do a lot of this by bringing those folks into a discussion and using existing resources. So in that collaborative, we heard yesterday in our group, we heard members weren't aware of some of the work-based learning opportunities we offer in ROP through our classes. They weren't aware of local funding issues that have come into play. That's a local control funding formula, which is going to restrict the way funds are spent on our courses. And also they weren't aware that our courses are now career technical education versus vocational education. So with career technical education, there's a higher level of rigor. Half of our courses are A to G approved or college prep, or articulated with community colleges so they receive those units and credits. So we just figured that we needed to really have that group come together, and Chris is going to help getting that on the Civinomics website for us. The second one that Chris brought up, and I'm going to ask him to comment a little bit.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Is, again, it's a no-cost item, is he talked about having, extending the work that's completed in the classroom into the community, because a lot of the information is done or completed in the classrooms the public doesn't know about. Thank you, Chris.
By the way, our educators really rock. They're taken for granted and they don't get paid enough. So, just want to say, the idea is to utilize some of the online resources, such as Santa Cruz Wiki, for instance, and some of the material that's already out there, for instance, at the Museum of Natural History, the Historical Archives at the MA. The Santa Cruz Public Library has a vast amount of local historical data and whatnot. The problem is you sort of have to go to the data and all of that. So one of the ideas is to take the educational flow that the kids already go through in primary and secondary school. If they put together a paper on the local Ohlone Indians, for instance, it goes through a cycle that is, parents write the paper for the child, the child writes the paper, it goes to the teacher, gets edited and graded, and then it goes into a folder with a big red A+ on it. And the idea is to extend that cycle. So for instance, if you write a piece of research about something of interest to the local community, the flora, the fauna, the geography, the weather, the population, how education works in Santa Cruz County. There's this vast amount of information out there, and in the education process, the kids are doing the research, writing the material and whatnot, but it just goes through that cycle and ends up in a folder. We have these great online resources that we could utilize to gather this information and then accumulate it. So for instance, if somebody manages to take a picture of the blue-footed booby that's supposed to be up north here or whatnot, then they can upload it to something like Santa Cruz Wiki, write the paper, do the research, get the material together, get their A, and instead of it going into a folder, it becomes part of the community knowledge bank by putting it online in some of these resources that are becoming available out in the community. And again, in my mind, Santa Cruz Wiki is one of them. You probably don't even know it exists, but it is, out there. It's being maintained in the community. It's free and all of that. So this is a no-cost initiative, and a way to characterize it is by leveraging our schools as a sort of community research and development arm, so that as they do this research for their grade and to learn these skills, develop their language skills and whatnot, don't just let it go through that cycle where it ends up in a folder with a big red A on it. Give it to the community and contribute it to that community knowledge base. In this way, this is also part of the other initiative of bringing the community closer together with education and having this community and education collaboration. It's really important as an employer to get the kids plugged into real life more and whatnot, get them out of the schools which is sort of a silo. What happens in a classroom doesn't really happen out here. So by doing this, the kids actually contribute, like I say, to our community knowledge base, but it gets them and their work out into the community more, and it plugs them into these existing institutions like the MOV, Natural History Museum, and leverages those resources and makes it more available to the community.
Any questions at all?
I think we've got to move on to the next one, so let's ask questions online.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, guys.
So thanks for hanging out. I'll make this real quick. There's a initiative online under the Arts Workshop. I was one of 3 people in the Arts Workshop, but we had a lot of ideas, and in the spirit of this event, the collaborative, community collaboration, one of the participants in the art workshop was Pamela Comstock, the city council member, and she had an idea that she was pretty passionate about, and I thought, well, I'll create the initiative for that. And it is commission a signature interactive art piece in the spirit of Civinomicon. Now, I added that last piece, but her idea was that Santa Cruz needed to have would benefit from having a signature interactive art installation. And what she pointed to was the Kissing Bridge in Moscow. If you're not familiar with it, check it out. It's a bridge where couples go and they leave a lock on a tree that signifies their devotion, and then they throw the key in the river. And this has been going on for quite some time, and the city figured out a way that they create fake trees. People put the locks on, and then they've lined up the trees along the riverbank. So it's not only an interesting exhibit, but it is an attraction, and it's something that people make a point of going to see. So in the initiative, you can read it online, but essentially I'm saying we'd have to commission a competition to, come up with what would be the signature idea for Santa Cruz. Probably a prize associated with that would be helpful. And then, some mechanism for selecting it and then creating it and maintaining it. So that's that. So thank you.
Okay. Yes. Hello, I'm Ross, and I'm representing an initiative from the Sustainability Group. And this initiative is to help increase the green of our electricity grid, and specifically moving electricity that's generated and pumped through the grid to a 50 or 100% renewable component. Right now, you know, the PG&E is about 20% renewable. They have a 33% objective that they're failing to meet. The idea is to make a public and local action to increase the green component of our electricity. Now, Sonoma and Marin have both already done this. They've established local districts that purchase a renewable energy for the citizens within their districts and then sell it at a competitive price to what the community sells it at. The idea is to provide the same cost to their local constituents while helping them as a region meet their environmental objectives of green energy. So locally, we are in the process of actually investigating the feasibility of such a district for the Monterey Bay area, and it's called community choice aggregation. And what happens is a district is formed, and then there is a institution that procures green energy and then has that energy delivered to the grid for its citizens. The benefit, besides just having a greener grid, is that you can actually incentivize and increase development in local renewable energy by investing some of the money that comes in from the purchase of from your customers into new development in your own community. So it can help incentivize projects like rooftop and canopy over parking lot structure renewables in our towns. That power is purchased by the community choice aggregation at a competitive rate. So it benefits the property owners that want to put solar on because they can actually sell that solar at a market value, and it benefits everyone else that is buying that power. So for how this initiative could be supported locally, one of the key things that was identified is greater participation by the public, the local community in this process. There is a regional task force investigating this, but very few people understand or know where we're at in that process. So three components of the initiative are to improve community engagement and outreach using the green energy, what is it, Monterey Bay Clean Energy website, which is already up and running, but inform people more about that website and have a more up-to-date information on what the process is currently. The process currently, if you want to know, is that a feasibility study is the first step, understanding how we can create that district locally. And once that is done, then it goes to a municipality vote to become part of that district. And so the first step is to understand how we would set it up, and the second step is to actually get government political support for it. So informing people of where we are in the process is number one. Two is that we actually have to fund a feasibility study without impacting local government funds. And so there's an active campaign to generate the $150,000 needed to do that feasibility study. It was identified that it would be great if we could get a crowdsourcing component of 10% to help support that initiative. And so establishing some way that the local residents can actually participate in the funding of this process. And then the third part is find ways that the community can actually help sponsor and support outreach and workshops, et cetera. So more of the community, especially local businesses, understands the full potential as a local economic incentive program, as well as a greening of our grid. And so that's the initiative, is to find ways to improve our engagement with the community, both to reach out as well as engage in the funding of the project. Thank you.
All right, so we've got one last initiative presentation, and then we're going to quickly give awards. And we'll do it. So, John.
My name is John Golder. I go by Yon, people that know me. And my proposal or my initiative is published here under a West Side proposal. And I put up a workshop that's going to make that proposal happen, and that's called the Active Recreation Coalition of Santa Cruz, a nonprofit that I'm kicking off. I love the fact that this organization's work is supposed to be data-based. And so I want to engage you folks and see how close you are to the numbers that we know already. How many people here in this room, we got about 35 people in the room, either engage in team sports in some way? Okay, what we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, the number I'd expect would be about 5, at least 15% of the city's population. If I expand that to the definition of active recreation, which means any activity that has some kind of scoring system that takes place on a prepared surface or facility, so that includes all kinds of things, as long as it's kind of competitive and organized. Would that add any more people? Okay. Okay, so we're very good. That's an excellent example. Okay. So, pardon me here. How many people in this room believe in the benefits of active recreation and sports in the community? Whoa, baby. So I don't need to sell that one, do I? Okay. The Greenbelt Preserve is kind of opposite, and this is a land use issue. Greenbelt Preserve. How many people in here believe that no development should happen in the Greenbelt and it should be preserved?
What is development?
Anything from, well, you know, the path in Arana Gulch is one example that you're very familiar with. But just, you know, that it shouldn't have any more than maybe just trails. And just hands off. How many people believe in that attitude, would take that position? I would expect about 5 people to take that position from surveys we've done in the past. How many would like to see at least some kind of additional facilities, recreational facilities in the Greenbelt?
What's the Greenbelt?
Okay. According to a random scientific survey, 66% of the city people would like to see something done in those areas. So, and for those who, there was only a couple of people here that said hands off the Greenbelt. How many people have any idea how much protected open space there is within 10 miles of the city, 15-minute drive? Rough idea, you have any clue? The number is 30,600 acres. And so an acre is about the size of a football field. And Parks Master Plan, does anybody know, and what a Parks Master Plan is, what kind of parks facilities are we going to have and where are we going to put them? Does anybody know when the city last did a Parks Master Plan? Oh, I should be talking through the microphone, shouldn't I?
30 years ago?
30 years ago, I think you've read my material. 30 years ago, and they're going to start doing a new one this time. The amount of money that's gone to parks since polling up in about 1980, roughly $60 million. About half of that is Poking Up itself, which was a gift for the state. And for the Greenbelt in general, 83% of that money has gone to the Greenbelt. Okay, so the city's only added one sports field in 50 years, and that one just recently closed. In 50 years, the city's in population increase in those 50 years, it's gone from about 32,000 to it's about 62,000 now, almost twice as much. So, you know, why don't we have more? What's happened to the whole process is, so if you go on my active recreation workshop, You can look at all the research or get the research from me. I'll be putting more links and stuff in there. And to give you an overall picture of what this community could do. In 1875, Santa Cruz County was the third largest manufacturing county in the state. And the cost of land value now is $2 to $2.5 million an acre. Costs $1 to $2 million to develop that. My proposal for the west side won't cost the city any money at all. It's a way to use existing funds that are coming in and create a recreational complex. The benefits of it are in the initiative. I'll be fleshing it out, and I really hope you'll take a look at that. You'll be hearing more from me. I'll be showing up in lots of places in the city, and thank you for the opportunity. I really like what these guys are doing.
Okay, great. So a little above schedule, but last thing we'd like to do before we wish you all a great weekend and thank you for coming out here is give away some awards for the topic groups that we had. Okay, so we asked our facilitators to choose who in their group they felt was the most helpful in terms of coming up with new ideas, being a team player, asking good questions, or really facilitating the best way to address the challenges that they outlined. Now, some facilitators didn't specify, and so we're going to go ahead and give those awards to the people who stayed out here for the couple days and actually presented an initiative from those groups. So, first, the MVP for transportation actually couldn't be here, but was specified. So that was Bud Colligan during the transportation group, so he got the award. We know Bud, we're going to go ahead and get it to him. For education, we had specified by Brett McFadden, we had Ray. Ray, the name is hard written here, cannot see it. Kampf? Kaup? Anyways, so I'm sure you guys know Ray, so we're going to go ahead and get that to him.
Somebody say a little bit more about what, like a sentence or two about what they did that caused you, like, go back to the first one. That would be really interesting.
I mean, I wasn't a part of that group, actually. So we asked the facilitators, who do you think was the most helpful in facilitating a dialogue about how to address those challenges?
Okay.
I can speak to Ray. Ray is from Cabrillo College. He joined his colleagues from Hawthorne, County Office of Education, ROP, and some private education consultants. And he basically got the award for class participation and the quality of his participation.
Yeah, Bud, from what I gathered, Bud was the most active participant in terms of discussing. Bud is actually a transplant from Silicon Valley over here, and so he had a lot to learn, he had a lot of questions to ask, and he really helped the discussion get honed in there. Yeah, so up for public safety, we have Eric Johnson, who stayed up here. So Eric asked a lot of good questions, but he also came up here and fleshed out a proposal and came up here and presented that. So I'd like to honor him for his participation that way.
Thank you.
So next we have local economy, which we're going to go ahead and give to Rose. Rose is very good at the local economy session. She documented a lot of the initiatives that were being proposed, and she came up here and presented 2 of them. MVP for arts goes to Jim Coffis. Jim was a very active participant in the arts discussion group along with Councilmember Comstock, and came here and was willing to go ahead and present the idea for a central art piece, an interactive art piece, correct?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have some art.
Yeah. So up for homelessness, who also couldn't be here was, but who was very vocal and very constructive in helping the homelessness group flesh out was Annette March. And if someone from the homelessness group wants to talk a little about how she contributed.
Annette was very knowledgeable, and she's putting together the oral history, yes?
Oral
That's
history?
Annette, yes.
Mhm.
Not the other it's called, an oral history of within Santa Cruz. Bless you.
Let's see.
That are housing insecure and kind of creating more of a dialogue between folks who are housed and the homeless population, and creating compassion and trying to reduce the culture of fear around homelessness. And that's just great.
Great. So it's to Annette March.
Yeah.
Next up, we have the MVP for water, who also couldn't be here, but I'm going to go ahead and it was given to Mark Primack for his discussion by Donna Myers, but because you ended up coming up here and presenting, I'd like to give it to you.
Oh.
And I forgot your name. Rachel Goodman.
Thank you.
So Rachel actually took the liberty of documenting all of the water group's initiatives, despite many of them not being her own, but she went through it and actually documented every single one on the workshop. So you can go ahead and look at all of those that they discussed. And vote. So then for environmental sustainability, he also could not be here for this day, but we know him, he's going to be working with Civinomicon a little more, is Eric Erickson. And Eric was very informed in terms of the topics he asked and his willingness to participate. He was obviously very passionate and very positive contributor to the environmental sustainability group. So Eric Erickson, we'll go ahead and all right, and with that, I don't want to keep you guys waiting too long here. I just want to say, as one of the co-founders of Civinomics, this weekend has been truly inspirational in terms of the amount of people who attended and the quality of the discussions that were had. I mean, when I first came by the local economy workshop, and I walked in there and I was like, okay, how's everything going, guys? You know, we're going to be rounding up for Zach Friend's speech. And I was told to get out. The reason being is we were like, Robert, we're on a roll. You need to not disturb us right now. And so when you can inspire that, when you have the head of economic development for the city and the mayor sitting there talking, and also Donna Murphy, who works for UCSC in charge of doing community relations, sitting there and like, no, we have business to do. We're on a roll. We're really inspired by this. That blew me away. Of course, I got right out of there. But the whole point being is that, you know, when Hillary talked about really the whole positive feeling that she got from this, the fact that this is what inspires her to get back into office. Again, I think so often we get lost in this political realm of rhetoric and who's covering who and what's going to get done in terms of the reactions that we're having towards a lot of really important community issues. We forget that there is a space to have a positive impact and to proactively think about how we can imagine our community without having to react. And a great way that was explained yesterday was when Zach Friend talked about doing what's important versus doing what's urgent. Of course, we depend on our government to do what's urgent because government, like he said, cannot go out of business. It can't take the risk, and it can't do our politicians themselves can't take the risk oftentimes because government can't go out of business. It can't falter. The police need to show up the next day. Your fire department needs to be able to put out your fires. So having the space to take a look at not just what's urgent, but what's really important, and having a space for us all to come together and really have meaningful discussions with the people who are not only care and are passionate about these issues and are employed to do so, but the people also in position to make a change. And I think the Civinomicon, which really was an experiment, I mean, nothing really has been done like this in quite a while, getting everyone together and then taking their ideas and putting it online, I mean, I really hope that we're going to get a lot of participation. In fact, I know we're going to get a lot of participation. But just the fact that you all came, took a weekend out of your lives to come and make a positive contribution to the community is awe-inspiring. And I know just that act of coming here and becoming more civically engaged and learning more about these topics was inherently valuable. So thank you very much for coming. Thanks to our awesome sponsors, Discretion Brewing, Penny Ice Creamery, Picnic Basket. We had the Bakery came MJ Vineyards. We had India Joe's provide some food for our volunteers. Nut Creations provided provided also Santa Cruz Mountain Brewery. I'm not sure if I mentioned them.
Yeah, the whole glass jar was here every single day this weekend, making sure that you guys had finger foods, you know, snacks. We have leftovers, but I mean, a big shout out to them.
Totally open for those leftovers. Go and take them.
Yes.
But just thank you for everybody. It's been a monumental experience.
The Sentinel Cafe was open.
Oh, the Sentinel Cafe was open. Thanks, Lauren. Lauren from Central Cafe. We all know how impossible it is to do this without caffeine, so they're imperative. So yeah, just thank you very much, and have the best weekend, and really quickly, be sure to share your initiatives. We want to get as many people involved in these, we want to get as many votes as possible. We want to jumpstart a community discussion about how to address these issues, and I think we've provided the place for them. Yeah.
So, I'm curious to know, aside from the Sentinel, who's going to be writing about this? And I want to invite people who are writing about it. I'm Sarah Eisenberg, and I am the editor, producer, curator of Santa Cruz Tech Beat. And because this is a software platform and it's Santa Cruz, so if anyone, including the Civinomics people, are writing articles about this weekend, then I invite you to submit them. I'm especially, I mean, of course I'm interested in things that you write on your own blog, but I'm especially interested in things that you might write and you just hand off the content to me and I put it on the TechBeat website. So
Send your articles.
it just has to have it has to have a connection to the Santa Cruz Tech, be of interest to or relevant to the Santa Cruz Tech community. So not every single article would be that, but I'm sure many would be.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, and so Good Times is also going to be covering this in 2 different articles. The Sentinel's coming out with an article tomorrow about this as well. Yeah, really quick.
I was supposed to say I'm publishing my initiative, the initiative for the homelessness group right now. It's more fleshed out, and it's going to be more fleshed out throughout the week, but I could use your comments, so yeah.
Okay. And then, so the last big thank you I want to give before Micah jumps in here and steals the mic from me, last big thank you I want to give is really this event would not have happened or come anywhere close to how good it was without the help of Esther Kim, who really helped coordinate our volunteers. Esther has been with Civinomics for a couple months now, and she has just killed it. She is such a valuable team member. I mean, she really was the driving force behind this event, so please thank her. I guess we'll give Micah the mic.
I was going to thank Esther, but I also want to thank, the thing about true leadership is the leaders are the people that thank the other people, but they really deserve our thanks. So if we could just give it up to Robert and Manu and the whole Civinomics crowd for...
Drink our beer, eat our food.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.